The last time my father looked at me with pride, I was 8 years old. I still remember it clearly. I had won first place in my school science fair. The trophy was cheap plastic, but to me, it felt like gold. Dad had lifted me onto his shoulders and told everyone in the neighborhood, "That's my son, Ethan. He's going to do great things one day." Back then, I believed him. Back then, I believed family meant forever. I had no idea how quickly love could turn into disappointment. Or how one secret, buried for decades, would eventually lead me to the White House and change everything. By the time I was 28, my father, Senator Richard Hayes, had become one of the most influential men in Washington. People admired him. Television called him the people's senator. But they only knew the version he showed the cameras. The real Richard Hayes. He measured people by status, power, connections, success. And in his eyes, I had failed every category. You see, my younger brother, Daniel, followed in our father's footsteps. Harvard graduate, rising political star, perfect smile, perfect speeches, the golden child. Then there was me. I chose a different path. While my father built political empires, I worked as a history teacher at a small public school in Virginia. I loved teaching. Watching children discover the past felt meaningful. But to my father, teaching wasn't prestigious. It wasn't powerful. To him, I was the son who wasted his potential. The son who embarrassed the family name. Over the years, the distance between us grew. Calls became rare. Invitations stopped coming. Eventually, I stopped trying. Because rejection hurts less when you expect it. At least, that's what I told myself. One rainy Thursday afternoon, I was grading essays after class when my phone buzzed. The screen showed an unfamiliar number. "Hello," a calm voice answered. "Mr. Ethan Hayes." "Yes. This is the Office of Public Engagement in Washington. We're calling regarding an upcoming White House reception." I nearly laughed. "Sorry," I said. "You probably have the wrong person." "We're certain we have the correct individual, sir." I frowned. My heart began to race. The voice continued. "You are invited to attend a private reception next Friday evening." I blinked. A White House reception? Yes, sir. There had to be a mistake. Why me? A brief silence. Then, "I'm afraid those details remain confidential until the event." Confidential? What kind of answer was that? Before I could ask another question, the caller said, "An official invitation has already been mailed to your address." The call ended. I stared at my phone for several seconds. Then laughed to myself. Someone was playing a joke. They had to be. But 2 days later, a sealed envelope arrived. Official White House insignia. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was an elegant invitation. "You are cordially invited to attend a private reception at the White House. Dress code. Formal. Guest of honor details to be announced." I read it 5 times. The invitation was real. Or at least it looked real. Still, one question kept bothering me. Why me? I wasn't famous. I wasn't wealthy. I wasn't politically connected. Not anymore. That evening, curiosity got the better of me. I called my father. He answered after several rings. "Ethan." His voice carried surprise. He rarely answered my calls. "Dad," I said carefully. "Can I ask you something?" "What is it?" "I received an invitation to a White House reception next Friday. Silence. Then laughter. Cold laughter. Very funny. I'm serious. His tone hardened. You expect me to believe that? I have the invitation. Another pause. Then he said something that stung more than I expected. White House events aren't for people like you. People like me. Even after all these years, those words hurt. I swallowed. I thought maybe you knew something about it. He sighed impatiently. The White House hosts influential people, Ethan. Senators. Diplomats. Leaders. Then came the sentence I would never forget. You weren't invited. His voice carried certainty, as if my entire life could be summarized in those 3 words. You probably received someone else's mail. Before I could respond, click, he hung up. I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the invitation, wondering why disappointment still hurt when it came from someone who had disappointed me my whole life. The next week passed slowly. Every day I considered not going. What if it was a mistake? What if security turned me away? What if my father was right? But something deep inside refused to back down. For once in my life, I wanted answers. Friday arrived. Washington glittered beneath the evening lights. The White House stood ahead of me, magnificent and surreal. I adjusted my borrowed tuxedo nervously. Borrowed, because I couldn't afford one. As guests arrived in luxury cars, I stepped out of an old taxi. Immediately, I felt out of place. Men in tailored suits, women in designer gowns. Power surrounded me, and I was just a teacher. A teacher carrying questions nobody could answer. Security checked my identification. I held my breath. The officer scanned my invitation. His expression changed. He looked up, then smiled. Welcome, Mr. Hayes. Welcome. No confusion. No mistake. My pulse quickened. Maybe I really was supposed to be here. Inside, crystal chandeliers illuminated elegant halls. Conversations echoed softly. Waiters carried silver trays. History surrounded every corner. I felt like an outsider walking through another world. Then I heard a familiar voice. Ethan. My body froze. I turned. There stood my father. Senator Richard Hayes. Beside him stood Daniel. Both dressed perfectly. Both staring at me in disbelief. Dad's face darkened. What are you doing here? I showed him the invitation. His expression hardened instantly. This has to be some error. Daniel crossed his arms. Did you use Dad's name to get access? I stared at my brother. Seriously? Dad stepped closer. His voice low. Dangerous. Ethan, leave before you embarrass yourself. There it was again. Embarrassment. Always embarrassment. No greeting. No hug. No pride. Only shame. I looked around. Several guests had begun watching. Heat rose to my face. Then my father delivered the words that would change everything. You don't belong here. The sentence hit harder than I expected. Not because it was new, but because, deep down, a small part of me had always feared he was right. I lowered my eyes. Maybe I should leave. Maybe this really was a mistake. And then, a woman's voice interrupted. Excuse me. The room quieted. Everyone turned. A distinguished woman in an elegant navy dress approached. Her expression was serious. The official hostess of the evening. She looked directly at me. Not my father. Not the senator. Me. Mr. Ethan Hayes. My throat tightened. Yes. The woman's face suddenly lost color. Her eyes widened, as though she had seen a ghost. She whispered something so quietly only I could hear. Words that made my blood run cold. After all these years, we finally found you. My breath caught. Found me. Found me for what? Before I could speak, the woman turned pale, and across the room, several government officials suddenly stood up, all staring directly at me, as if they had been waiting for me. My father's confident expression disappeared. For the first time in my life, I saw fear in his eyes. And I had no idea why. For a moment, the grand ballroom fell silent. Not the kind of silence created by peace. The kind born from shock. From secrets. From fear. The hostess stood frozen in front of me, her face unusually pale. Behind her, several officials exchanged nervous glances. My father's jaw tightened. Daniel looked confused. And I had no idea what was happening. I swallowed hard. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "Do we know each other?" The woman blinked, as if realizing she had revealed too much. Her professional smile returned instantly. Almost too quickly. "Mr. Hayes," she said formally, "someone would like to meet you." My father immediately stepped forward. "There must be some misunderstanding," he said, his voice sharp. "My son isn't involved in government affairs." The hostess didn't even look at him. That alone was strange. Men like Senator Richard Hayes were used to commanding every room they entered. Yet tonight, he looked like a man losing control. The woman turned to me. "Please come with me." I hesitated. "Can you at least tell me why I'm here?" She lowered her voice. "Not here." Then she added words that made my heart pound. "Some truths should never be spoken in public." Before I could respond, she began walking. And somehow, I followed. The corridor beyond the ballroom was quieter. Historic portraits lined the walls. Presidents. Leaders. Moments that shaped history. As a history teacher, I should have been fascinated. Instead, anxiety gripped my chest. Why me? Why tonight? And what had she meant by "found you"? We stopped outside a smaller reception room. 2 security officers stood at the door. One of them nodded respectfully. To me. The hostess turned. "Please wait inside. Someone will join you shortly." Then she left. Just like that. No explanations. No answers. Only more questions. I entered the room. It was elegant but private. A fireplace crackled softly. On the table rested a glass of water and a thick envelope sealed with wax. My name was written on it. Ethan Hayes. My hands trembled. How long had this been waiting? Who prepared it? I reached for the envelope. The door suddenly opened. I looked up. And my father stormed in. Behind him came Daniel. Dad's face was red with anger. "What is this?" he demanded. "I don't know." "Don't lie to me." His voice echoed through the room. "I'm not lying." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Daniel broke the silence. "Dad, maybe we should calm down." But my father ignored him. His eyes locked onto the envelope. And for the first time, I saw fear. Real fear. Not anger. Fear. "Don't open that," he said immediately. My hand froze. "What?" His voice became unusually urgent. "Leave it alone." That made no sense. All my life, my father had hidden emotions behind confidence. But now, his hands were shaking. I stared at him. Why? No answer. Just silence. And sometimes silence says more than words ever can. Slowly, I picked up the envelope. Dad stepped forward. Ethan. His voice cracked. Actually cracked. I had never heard that before. Please. Please. My father never said please. Not to anyone. The room suddenly felt smaller. He wasn't protecting me. He was protecting something else. Something hidden. Something dangerous. I broke the seal. Inside were several documents. Old photographs. A handwritten letter. And a newspaper clipping dated 30 years ago. The headline made my stomach drop. Missing infant disappears from Washington hospital. My eyes widened. Beneath the headline was a faded baby photograph. I stared. The air left my lungs. The baby looked exactly like me. No, that couldn't be possible. I looked again. Same eyes. Same birthmark above the eyebrow. My fingers went numb. What is this? Nobody answered. I turned toward my father. His face had gone white. Daniel looked equally shocked. I unfolded the handwritten letter. The ink had faded with time. It read, "To whoever finds this, if anything happens to me, please tell my son the truth. His name is Ethan. He deserves to know who he really is." My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear. No, no, this had to be some mistake. I looked down. The letter continued. He was never meant to disappear. He was taken to protect him. One day, when the time is right, bring him home. Home. Protect him. Taken. I slowly raised my eyes toward my father. His expression told me everything. He knew. He had always known. Dad. The word barely escaped my lips. What is this? He closed his eyes. For the first time in my life. The powerful Senator Richard Hayes looked broken. Daniel stepped backward. Dad. No answer. I felt my chest tighten. Tell me the truth. Silence. Then, a voice spoke from the doorway. Perhaps I should explain. Everyone turned. An elderly man entered the room. Silver hair. Calm eyes. Distinguished posture. The hostess stood behind him respectfully. Even the security officers straightened immediately. Who was he? The man looked directly at me. His eyes softened. Not with curiosity. With sadness. The kind of sadness carried for decades. My name is Samuel Whitaker, he said quietly. I've waited 30 years to meet you. 30 years. The number hit me like lightning. Who are you? He took a slow breath. I was your mother's closest friend. Mother. My mother died when I was 6. At least, that's what I had always been told. The room suddenly felt colder. Samuel reached into his pocket and removed an old photograph. He handed it to me. My hands trembled as I took it. The world stopped. In the photograph stood a young woman. Smiling. Holding a baby. Me. But the woman. She wasn't my mother. I had never seen her before. Not once. Not in any family album. Not in any memory. I looked up slowly. What is this? Samuel's eyes filled with sorrow. The woman who raised you loved you deeply. He paused. But she was not your biological mother. My knees nearly gave out. Impossible. Impossible. My entire life. A lie. I turned toward my father. His silence became unbearable. Say something. Daniel stared at Dad in disbelief. Dad, tell us he's wrong. But my father couldn't speak. Because the truth had finally arrived. And there was no escaping it. Samuel took a deep breath. Then he said words that shattered everything I thought I knew. Ethan, your real parents were connected to one of the most important families in American history. The room went silent. My pulse roared in my ears. What family? Samuel looked toward the window. Toward the White House grounds. Then back at me. His voice barely above a whisper. The reason you were brought here tonight is because someone powerful has spent 3 decades searching for you. I felt my chest tighten. Searching. Why? Who? Before I could ask, the door suddenly burst open. A security officer rushed inside. His face pale. Urgent. Sir, he said to Samuel. There's a problem. Samuel frowned. What happened? The officer swallowed hard, then looked directly at me. Someone leaked the file. My blood ran cold. What file? The officer hesitated, then delivered words that changed everything. The press already knows Ethan Hayes is alive. Outside, cameras began flashing. Voices echoed through the halls. Reporters. Dozens of them. Somehow, the secret buried for 30 years had just become national news. And whoever leaked it wanted the truth exposed, or someone destroyed. No one spoke. No one moved. Outside the windows, flashes of cameras lit up the White House lawn like lightning during a storm. Reporters. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. My heart pounded so hard it felt painful. The security officer looked at Samuel Whitaker. We need to move quickly. Samuel nodded grimly. My father stood motionless. For the first time in my life, Senator Richard Hayes looked like a man who had run out of answers. And somehow, I was at the center of it all. I swallowed hard. Someone tell me what's happening. My voice shook. Not from fear. From exhaustion. 30 years. 30 years of lies. And tonight, everything I believed about my life was collapsing. Samuel looked at me with kind eyes. You deserve the truth. I laughed bitterly. Apparently, I've deserved it for 30 years. No one argued. Because no one could. Samuel sat across from me. The fireplace crackled softly. Outside, reporters continued gathering. Inside, my world changed forever. He folded his hands. 30 years ago, Washington was a very different place. He glanced at my father. And powerful people made desperate decisions. I looked at Dad. His eyes remained fixed on the floor. Samuel continued. Your biological mother's name was Eleanor Brooks. The name meant nothing to me. Yet somehow, hearing it made my chest tighten. Eleanor Brooks. My mother. My real mother. Samuel removed another photograph. This one showed a young woman standing beside a tall man in military uniform. Both smiling. Both holding a baby. Me. Tears stung my eyes. I had never seen these faces before. Yet they felt strangely familiar. Like memories hidden beneath memories. Who were they? I whispered. Samuel inhaled slowly. Your father was Captain James Carter. I frowned. Carter. The name sounded ordinary. Too ordinary. Samuel nodded. He was a decorated military officer. He also served in several confidential national security operations. The room fell silent. Even Daniel stopped breathing. Samuel's voice softened. Your parents were respected, honest, loved. Then one night, everything changed. 30 years ago, a rainy evening in Washington. Captain James Carter had discovered evidence of corruption involving several powerful individuals. People with influence. People with money. People capable of ruining lives. According to Samuel, James planned to expose them. But before he could, a terrible accident occurred. Or at least, that's what the newspapers claimed. A car crash. James Carter died instantly. My mother survived. Barely. And within days, I disappeared from a Washington hospital. Officially, the case went cold. Unofficially, people kept searching for me. My entire life. My hands shook. Are you saying I was kidnapped? Samuel's eyes darkened. We believe you were hidden. Hidden. Not kidnapped. Hidden. There was a difference. And suddenly, I looked at my father. A terrible realization began forming. No, no, please no. I turned to him. Dad. His shoulders trembled. The man who never cried. The man who never showed weakness. Looked broken. What did you do? Silence. Then, he finally spoke. I saved you. The words hit harder than any confession. I stared at him. What? His eyes filled with tears. Real tears. The kind no camera would ever see. Your mother came to me. I blinked. What? She was terrified. His voice cracked. She believed dangerous people were watching your family. She thought they would come for you next. The room fell silent. Samuel closed his eyes, as if he already knew this part. Dad continued. She begged me to protect you. Protect me. My chest tightened painfully. She gave me documents, instructions, and one promise. His voice broke completely. Keep Ethan alive. Tears rolled down his face. The first tears I had ever seen from him. She died 2 days later. The room spun. No, no, no. Everything I knew. Everything. Gone. The woman I called Mom. The one who raised me. Had loved me. But she hadn't given birth to me. And the woman who had died trying to save me. I couldn't breathe. Daniel sat frozen. His entire world had shattered too. Because if I wasn't truly a haze, then neither of us had known the full story. Why didn't you tell me? My voice barely rose above a whisper. Dad looked at me, not as a senator, not as a powerful man. Just a father. A flawed one. I wanted to. Many times. Every birthday. Every graduation. Every milestone. His voice trembled. But every time I thought about telling you. He paused. I remembered the threats. Threats. Samuel nodded. Whoever targeted your parents was never identified. My blood ran cold. Never identified. After 30 years. Still out there. Dad whispered. I thought distance would keep you safe. The words hit me harder than anything else. Distance. All those years. The coldness. The rejection. The disappointment. Not because he hated me. Because he feared losing me. A terrible kind of love. The kind that hurts everyone involved. Tears blurred my vision. I had spent my life believing I wasn't enough. Believing my father was ashamed of me. And maybe part of him had been. But another part had been protecting me in the only way he knew. Even if it was wrong. Even if it broke us. Suddenly, the door opened again. The hostess entered. Her face serious. They're ready. I frowned. Who? She looked at me carefully. The people who never stopped searching. My heart skipped. Searching. For me. After 30 years. Samuel stood. It's time. Time for what? No one answered. They simply led me through a corridor. Past portraits. Past history. Past the life I thought I knew. Until we reached a private chamber. The doors opened. And I froze. Inside stood 3 elderly people. 2 women. 1 man. The moment they saw me, they began crying. The older woman covered her mouth. Her hands shaking. No. Her voice cracked. It can't be. She stepped forward. Slowly. as though afraid I might disappear. Then she whispered words that shattered me completely. "You have your mother's eyes." My knees weakened. Samuel placed a hand on my shoulder. "Ethan, these are your grandparents. 30 years. 30 years of empty chairs. Missed birthdays. Lost holidays. Unanswered questions. All because of fear." The elderly woman embraced me. And for the first time in my life, I felt a missing piece of myself return. Hours later, the truth became public. News channels exploded. Headlines spread nationwide. "Missing child found after 30 years. Investigations reopened. Old records resurfaced. And hidden secrets began emerging. The people responsible, some had passed away. Others faced investigation. But the truth finally lived in the light. As for my father, our relationship didn't magically heal overnight. Real life isn't like that. Pain leaves scars, and trust takes time. Months later, he visited my classroom. No cameras, no reporters, just him. He watched as I taught history to children. The same job he once mocked. When class ended, he stood quietly beside my desk. Then he said something I had waited my entire life to hear. "I was wrong." His voice shook. "You became exactly the man your parents would have been proud of." Tears filled my eyes. Not because the pain disappeared, but because healing had finally begun. I smiled. Not as a lost child. Not as a mystery. But as myself. Ethan Hayes. Teacher. Son. Survivor. And finally, home.